Okay, Parshas Vayeshev. Parshas Vayeshev is unfortunately distorted in the secular world because they make movies like what's it called? The Joseph and his his Technicolored.
Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Yeah, Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Yeah, and if you see if you watch it, I haven't watched it, but if you do watch it, the connection to the reality will be very tenuous at best. We have to understand what the Torah says about it. So page 198. The last parsha ended with an entire listing, if you remember, the last parsha ended with an entire listing of all the descendants of Esav. And the Torah and that's the last we're going to see of them. That's it. Esav is out. We're not going to find any descendants of Esav. And the Torah gives us a whole listing of them. Here you go. And then that's it. We've heard the last of Esav. The only time we're going to find more Esavism in the Torah is later on. What's that?
Amalek.
Correct. When Amalek attacks the Jewish people. And Amalek is a descendant of Esav. Amalek is a grandson of Esav. Eliphaz has Amalek. He's a grandson of Esav. There's a man named Amalek. His last name was Reynolds. But there's a man named Amalek. And Amalek then eventually is going to be the nation that attacks the Jewish people. That's Esav. That's the pinnacle of Esavism. Now, the Torah ends with that, and then the Torah begins and goes back to Yaakov. Yaakov has come back from Lavan's house. He's living in the land of Canaan now. And the Torah says, Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz megurei aviv be'eretz Canaan. Yaakov dwelled in the land of his father, the land of Canaan. Now, what is the connection, first of all, between Yaakov and there are no coincidences in the Torah? You finished with all the Esav people, and then you start out with Yaakov Avinu. So Rashi says that it's like a guy who is sifting in the sand for a gem. You're sifting, you pull out the sand, and you through the sifter, right? The sand falls through, and then you're left with the gem. So we've sifted through all of Esav. Now that we've gotten rid of all the sand, now we can start talking about Yaakov, number one. Number two, take a look at Rashi. Pick up Rashi about halfway down, about 9 lines from the top, on the right column. Right in the middle of the line. Davar acher, everybody say, if he's fine to show the person next to you. Vayeshev Yaakov, hapishtani hazeh, a flax merchant, nichnasu gemalav te'unin pishtan, is camels loaded with flax walked into a blacksmith shop. Pechami is a blacksmith tama. He's wondering, what am I going to do with all this flax? In your blacksmith, you need metal. You don't need flax. What are you going to do with all this flax? What am I going to do with all this stuff? They crowded my shop with all this flax. One wise man said to him, one spark will come out of your anvil, where you hit the hammer on the thing. It's just sorei feskulo. One spark will burn. All you need is one spark that's going to burn all that fabric, all that flax. Kach Yaakov ra'a kol ha'alufim aksuvim. Yaakov saw all these generals and high officials from Esav that are written in the previous section. Tama ve'amar mi yachol lichbosh es kulan. Who could conquer all of them? I'm outnumbered. Maksiv lemata. What is written following in the Torah? Eile toldos Yaakov Yosef. These are the generations, the offspring of Yaakov, and it starts with Yosef. Uksiv v'haya beis Yaakov eshu beis Yosef lahava. It says in Ovadia, the house of Yaakov is a fire, the house of Yosef is a flame. That means it extends farther. Ubeis Esav lakash, and the house of Esav is straw. Nitzotz Yosef, one spark will come out of Yosef, shemechala v'sorei feskulam. One spark will come out. Yaakov, you got nothing to worry about. You are well equipped. you're well equipped to fight all of Esav because you've got Yosef coming from you, and one spark from Yosef will destroy them. That's what Rashi brings down from the Medrash. Now, the idea here is, this is why this parsha always comes out around Hanukkah time. What happens with Hanukkah? You light a flame. Light a flame on Hanukkah. While we're lighting the flame, so there's an expression, one small light pushes away a lot of darkness. If you're in a dark room, and all you got to do is turn on a little bit of light a match in a dark room, and it lights everything up. As a metaphor or analogy, a metaphor, I'm not sure which one it is, it means that in life, you could be surrounded by darkness, and there's one little light of ruchnius, of spirituality, pushes away a lot of darkness. So the person's got Torah vision. We're surrounded by a world full of darkness. And with a little bit of Torah vision, which is what we were speaking about a little earlier, with Torah vision, you could see your way through the path of the darkness in the world. But it also means ourselves. In our own neshamas, you may feel that your neshama is full of darkness, maybe things you've done in the past and so on and so forth. One little spark of Torah clears out the neshama. It's like a cleaning agent. It clears it out. And this is something that you have to remember all the time. Don't dwell on the past, because the past is not your fault. It has nothing to do with you. To the contrary, the Gemara says that where Bali Tshuvas stand, even righteous tzaddikim cannot stand. And Bali Tshuvas have to know that instead of, you should never be thinking about, oi, how did I do that? Or, oi, how did I eat that? Or, oi, I wish I would have known about this sooner. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu put you here, that means you have a task to fulfill in life. We have a job to do. If Hashem wanted us to have been born 7th generation B'nai Brak and only speak Aramaic, he would have made us that way. But he didn't. He had us born in other places and had us, we each have a task to fulfill. We each have a role. And your role may be a more difficult role. Sometimes in the Marines, you give the toughest guys the tougher job. What's the big deal if you were born in Mea Shearim? And you were born already with payas and speaking Yiddish, so what's the big deal, But if you're born in a difficult situation, that's how you give when the going. Well, how's it say? When the going gets tough, the tough get going. That could be understood two ways. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. I think that's supposed to be. That's when the tough start. That's when you show how tough you are. When the going gets tough, the tough really get going. I understood it as when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Get me out of here, man. But then you're not very tough. That's how I know it. That's certainly how I reacted. But so the Torah first is telling you one little spark. Number one. Number two, we're going to see that what's going to end up happening over here is that Yosef, you're going to have this whole episode. Now, what's going to trigger off the episode with Yosef? I'm just going up ahead in a second. We'll see it in the Psukim in a second. What's going to trigger off the brothers' resentment towards Yosef? One word in English. Jealousy. Correct. The jealousy. And that's going to lead to all sorts of trouble. So unfortunately, point out, look at what's happening over here. You can be surrounded by Esavs, and it says, Vayeshev Yaakov Beretz Megarev. Yaakov's dwelling in tranquility. Yaakov's doing fine, surrounded by all these enemies. One little jealousy in the home, maybe not a little jealousy, and that starts all the trouble. That starts the trouble. By the way, that's not much different than our situation where we're surrounded by enemies. You got, look at Israel on a map if you could even find it, and you're surrounded by Muslim countries who outnumber us by about 100, what are there, 80 million, 90 million, 150 million. Well, we had a civil war in Syria, so you got to deduct a few. But whatever they surround us by, and by rights, when we're usually okay. When does the trouble start? When we start fighting with each other. When we're jealous of each other, there's family feuding among the Jewish people. That brings a backlash. The enemies wake up. So when there's family feuding, that's what brings it. So Yaakov, he's got enemies. Nothing's happening to him. He's fine till there's a little inter-Jewish fighting. And by the way, people say that Jews are always fighting. It's not true. Jews aren't always fighting. Jews may be arguing a little bit. Sometimes Jews argue. I've been on the streets in Israel where I ask somebody for directions, and they'll give me directions. Somebody says, lo, 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 lo. They'll start arguing about the directions, which is very nice because everybody wants to help. Then you walk away, and they're still arguing. That's all about part of the fun of living in Israel. So So that causes the destruction. Now, take a look very carefully at Rashi, the very first Rashi. Where is it? 1 second. It's on the left column. The left column of Rashi. It's actually in the next pasuk, but it's the left column. We're going to do this Rashi now. 4 lines from the top. What is the see where it says that in the right 6 lines in on the left column? If you find it, please show the person next to you. The od nidrash bova. It also they expound on this. Vayeshev, because the parsha begins with Vayeshev, the name of the parsha. What does Vayeshev mean? He dwelled. Bikesh Yaakov leishev b'shalva. Yaakov wanted to dwell in tranquility. That means he's been through a lot of aggravation. You know, he's been chased out of the house by Esav. He's had spent 20 years with a conniver like Lavan, and Rachel died. His mother died. Rachel died. You know, a little bit. Give me a break. You know, I just wanna dwell with a little tranquility. Kafatz olav rog zoshel Yosef. So now he gets the aggravation of Yosef, which is the greatest aggravation he's going to have in his life. So Yaakov Avinu is slightly taken to task here. You wanted to dwell in tranquility. Right? It's like people, I want to retire. Now, what do you do when you retire? I'll dwell in tranquility. Oh, yeah? Ask your wife if she wants that tranquility of having you in the house. You know, I'm not so sure she's going to be tranquil. She'll need tranquilizer. It's not tranquil. So Yaakov wants to, I just want to chill. I just want to relax. I just don't want any pressure anymore. Sorry, that doesn't work. He gets the aggravation of Yosef. Why? Tzadikim mevakshim leishev b'shalva, the righteous want to draw in tranquility. Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says, Lo dayan la tzadikim asher besukan lam lolam haba. It's not enough what they have waiting for them in the world to come. Ela shem mevakshim leishev b'shalva b'olam hazeh. They want to dwell in tranquility in this world. You know, this world isn't for tranquility. The Gemara says, there's a verse that says, Adam la'amal yulad. Man was born to toil. We were born to toil. Either you make parnasa, you have to work at parnasa, you have to work when you study Torah. You can't study Torah eating popcorn. You got to work at Torah. You got to work at a Tosos. You got to work at doing review, and then review, and more review. Hi, Jake. You got to work at review and review and review. And you got to work to figure out the Tosas. You got to work to figure out a piece of Gemara which you think you understand, and then there's a curveball, and you find out that everything you've understood until now is backwards, inside out, and upside down. That's work. We were created to work. We weren't created to sit, to dwell in tranquility. And that's why is it that even people who have a lot of money, they still work. They still work. You know, they could have retired years ago. Warren Buffett could have retired years ago and played computer games. And you see people, they still go to work. What, Jeff Bezos still works? Probably still works. Why? Because there's you can't, it's not sad. It's good for a few minutes. I was actually in America. I never saw this before. This kid's got the family I was staying at, so they got this giant screen on the wall. I guess that's called a high definition TV. So I'm, I think I've only seen it once in my life. So the kid's watching some detective movie, and I glanced at it, and you can actually see these people better than you see human beings. I mean, this thing was really impressive looking. Okay, so I left the room. Then I came back. I had to pack my bags to leave. He's playing a game, and this guy's walking around, and he's starting to chop people. And I said, "What is this?" He said, "Fortnite," which I've heard about, and I'm looking at this thinking, this is what the world is doing. This is what the world is doing. The world is walking around chopping people. And I heard him, he was with his friend who's also about 13 years old. He goes, "Yeah, if I go in water, I get another. I'm what's it called? I'm protected. By going, water protects him. It makes me wet, but he's protected by water. He gets another life or something." And I was getting dizzy. I couldn't even watch it. I was getting a headache and getting dizzy just the movement on the thing. And this kid's not even looking at the controls. He's moving this guy around. You know, how much of that could you do, really? How much of that could you do? Yeah, yeah. Sorry, bad question. apparently, people are doing it a lot. Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, never mind. Yeah. But the point is, Yaakov's now playing Fortnite. Yaakov's Yaakov Avinu. And it says he wanted to dwell in tranquility. So when I heard, it's not, which is the flaw? The wanting to dwell or the tranquility? So most understand it's the tranquility that's the problem. We have no problem with tranquility. What's wrong with being a little tranquil? There's no problem with a tzaddik who's able to, then you could learn without any financial pressures, without a headache. You got your kids married off. We have no problem with that. The problem is the Vayeshev. He wanted to dwell. We're not here to dwell. We're here to continue moving upwards. Our job is to grow. I think I've told you that there are two types of Jews in the world. I'm talking about observant Jews. There are two types of observant Jews. There are those who are growing, and there are those who are stagnating. And it doesn't matter what color your clothing is. It doesn't matter if you wear a black hat and a black jacket. It doesn't matter what color your clothing is as long as it's black. It doesn't matter. There are two types of, that was a joke. There are two types of, joke, I get it, joke, everybody. There are two types of Jews in the world. You're either focused on growth, or you're basically feel, well, this is it, this is me, and I'm done growing. You're stagnating, that means you're going downwards. There's no such thing. Torah is on an incline. Our life is on an incline. If you're not propelling yourself forward, you're sliding backwards. There's no neutral. Sometimes you got to hold your position to solidify your position, but it's only because you plan on, that's Yaakov's ladder, which we learned about earlier. What's a ladder? Why is it a ladder? Why isn't it just a platform? It's a ladder, because on a ladder you have to grow. Sometimes you have to stop, you climb. I see these guys in the, what is this called, the cranes. I always wondered, how do they get up there? You know, the giant cranes are all the way up there? How do these crane operators get up there?
Ladder.
What's that?
Ladder.
Yeah, it's a ladder. I thought for sure they got some sort of internal elevator or something. You know, I said, no. So one of the guys told me there's a trick, because they're building, they take an elevator in the building and go up to like the 8th floor of the building. Then they get into the crane and climb up another 4 floors or whatever it is. But otherwise, you got to go from the ground up. You know, you're up there all day. I mean, that's quite a climb. That's life. Life is climbing. We're climbing a ladder. We're not standing still. We're not stagnant. And if you're stagnant, that means by definition you're backsliding. That's the definition of it. There are two types of Jews. Advice I recommend, by the way, when it comes time for you, and this is very serious, when you're looking for a wife, how much she knows is nowhere near as important as what her attitude is towards growth. I would much rather marry a girl, well, I don't have a choice anymore, but I'd much rather you marry a girl that is, she may have less book knowledge, as long as she knows the basics, but she's focused on growth, as opposed to a girl who could quote every Ramban in the Torah. But she basically feels that she's made it, this is it. Because you need growth. That's what Torah is. Torah is about growth. And therefore, Yaakov is not criticized for the tranquility as much as for the Vayeshev. And this is again, we're talking about Yaakov Avinu, so it doesn't mean him personally. It's the Torah teaching us in the wording about what an attitude could be. And that's the criticism. That's what we're supposed to take out of it. That's the criticism of the Yaakov Avinu. Okay, now take a look at one more point in the first pasuk. Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz megurei aviv. So one of the Hasidic masters says, be'eretz means, by the way, phonetically, eretz and earth are exactly the same word. A tza and a tha are very interchangeable. Eretz, erith, right? There's no coincidence. Eretz and earth are obviously the same word. It's a tza, tha. You know, that's an insignificant. What do you call it? The Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz. Yaakov is in the earth, and the Torah is telling you over here that when you're dealing with materialism, Vayeshev means, there's an expression in Hebrew called Yishuv Hadas. Yishuv Hadas means you are calm, controlled, and not getting all for tumult when you're involved in materialism. Materialism could make you crazy. You get all caught up in your money, you get all caught up in your job, and you're frantic and you're just running. Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz. Sam Walton, you heard of Sam Walton from Walmart? Never heard of Sam Walton? No. Well, Fortnite, yeah, but Sam Walton, no. Sam Walton was the founder of Walton's of Walmart. It's a family. It's the richest family in the world, and his daughter is the richest woman in the world. Alice Walton is the richest woman in the world. No, guys, she's not Jewish. She's not available on a shidduch, but she's the richest woman in the world. Now, Sam Walton and his wife lived in the same house. They never moved, and he drove a red pickup. He never drove a Maserati, and he never drove a Lamborghini. He lived in a red. He said, "What do I need to upgrade for?" That means if you got the money, you get crazy with the money. Person could get crazy with materialism. Vayeshev Yaakov ba'aretz. You got to deal with it, but don't let it knock you off keel. Okay. Then the Torah starts the story. Eila told us Yaakov Yosef ben Shvaz Reishana. These are the offspring of Yaakov. Yosef immediately jumps to Yosef, even though he's one of the youngest brothers. Ben Shvaz Reishana. He was 17 years old. Hayeroa echav batzon. He shepherded. He was a shepherd with his brothers. V'hunar es b'nei bilav es b'nei zilpa neshei aviv, and he was a chum, a nar. He was a friend with the sons of the maidservants, the sons of b'nei Zilha and Bilpa. Vayave Yosef es dibasam re'elavim. Yosef brought a negative report to their father. Now there's several questions over here. The first thing is, Yosef brings his negative report. He saw the brothers engaged in according to one opinion, they were ripping the limbs off of living animals, what's called aver min achai, eating aver min achai. Another opinion is that there was what he called, Rashi brings down, they were making fun of the sons of the maidservants, and there's another opinion that they were involved in some sort of immorality. And he brings his negative report to the father. This is never a good thing to be a snitcher. You never become popular with other people when you're a snitcher. Yosef felt that what they were doing was wrong, and he was doing it for a beneficial purpose. And the Torah even emphasized, in the laws of Lashon Hara, number one, if you think that telling somebody off is not going to help, it's not going to be effective, you don't do it. Let somebody else do it. If you feel that somebody is doing something wrong and you want to correct them, you have to know who you are and who they are. Are they really going to accept it from you? Are they going to accept being corrected by you? And if they're not, don't do it. And that's why the Torah says he's a nar. He's a youth. And Yosef reads the map. He says, my older brothers are not going to accept it from me. But they're doing something wrong. He was motivated properly. There was no self-interest here. He felt, I have to go to my father to do it. They felt there's a misread. It gets complicated, but they felt there's a misread of what they were doing. And Yosef is simply snitching in order to get into the good graces of his father. And so Yosef misreads it, and they misread it. Now, one of the commentaries points out, if you follow the whole story through, there's an entire comedy of mistakes over here. Yosef misreads what the brothers were doing. He misreads whether he should tell on the brothers or not. The brothers misread his intentions. Yosef has a dream and tells it to his brothers, which is a mistake. The brothers misinterpret the dream, which is another mistake. The brother Yaakov Avinu then sends Yosef off to check up on the brothers, which is a mistake. The brothers assume Yosef is a pursuer, and therefore they sell him, and they kidnap him and sell him, which is a mistake, all of which leads to what? Yosef becoming the king in Egypt and eventually saving the Jewish people because there's a famine. So you have almost what you'd call a comedy of errors leading to the ultimate purpose. What's the ultimate purpose? That Yosef should be the viceroy in Egypt, and that's God's plan. And the lesson of the Torah here is that God's plan is going to come out one way or another. Whether we follow the steps or we step out of line, so God will create another situation which will bring us back in. One way or another, the ultimate plan is going to happen. God's plan is going to happen. And over here you see one mistake after another mistake after another. It reminds me of Abraham Lincoln. You know that Lincoln lost every election that he ran in? He ran for this. I think he lost about 5 or 6 elections till he ran for president, and then he won, which was a mistake because then he got shot. Right? But he won. He lost, and eventually he won and became president. That one, the big one, he won. Here you have one mistake, another mistake, and ultimately comes out exactly what God wanted and preordained, predestined to begin with. Because The manipulation works in many, many different ways. I told you, if a Kodesh Baruch Hu wanted to move me to the door, he's got different ways of moving me to the door. If God wants me to move to the door, he can bring a cobra right through the window. Boy, would that get me moving to the door. And let's say I won't move. I'm, when the going get tough, the tough get going. I'm one of those snake people. Come on, snake, snake, snake. Come on, snake. Yeah. So then what did God do? So God bring in a tarantula. I like tarantulas, right? Sounds like an Italian name. I like tarantulas, right? I don't know if it's a first name or a last name, but I like what it sounds like. So then God floats $100 bill right through the door. Oh, that'll get me to the door. One way or another, he's going to get me to the door. I'm not going to stay here. It could be this, it could be that, it could be the other. But he tried it that way, it didn't work. Okay, I used my free choice not to move, so I'll move that way. And there's a whole series over here, which all brings out. Now, watch this. You look at Rashi for a second. This is fascinating. Take a look at Rashi. It's left column of Rashi. These are big columns, by the way, so it's a little trickier. Left column of Rashi, about seven lines from the top. V'hu na'ar. What's a nar, gentlemen? What does it translate? A nar translate to? A what?
Lad.
He's a lad, right? Like the lads in England, right? The lads just wanted to have a pint, right? He's a lad. You're 100% right. A lad implies a youth, right? He's a youth. Why is the word na'ar used in Hebrew? This just shows you the Hebrew language is a definition of. It's not only the word defines itself. Na'ar comes from the Hebrew word empty. Lina'er means to empty something out, to shake something out. A youth is empty of life wisdom. A youth is empty. He's a nar. He's a silly teenager. He's an adolescent. An adolescent think they're smart. They think they know everything, and they know very little. We know nothing. They're not. They're not even. They know so little. They don't even know enough to ask those of us who do know. What? Yeah. They're minuar. They're completely empty. And that's why there's an expression: the older I get, the wiser my father becomes. You ever heard that expression? Never heard that? The older I get, the smarter my father becomes? Because when you're a teenager, your father is absolutely clueless. My dad's worried about saving money and things like that. And dad's worried about, dad. And then as you get a little older, you understand exactly, especially when you become a father, then you understand exactly why your father said everybody turn off the light switches. Don't anybody around here turn off the lights? Am I the only one who turns off the lights? You ever hear that music? Turn off the lights. And why is it that dad said, well, don't throw it out. Don't throw out the shampoo if there's a little bit left. Right? And you're like, yeah, I'm such a cheapskate. What are you worried about? Then also when you become a father, you say, hey, the man was right. It's like the kid, he's 15, and then he turns 25. He says, wow, my dad got so much smarter in 10 years. Boy, look how much he improved. All of a sudden, things look a little different when you're on the other side of the light switch. That I could tell you. I promised myself, yes, I also promised I'm not going to make a big issue about light switches. And I did. And I do. My father, used to make me, we had a house in Chicago. If I was in the basement and I left the light on in my room upstairs, he'd call me up. You left the light on. I said, yeah. That meant come upstairs and turn off the light. I had to go up 2 flights of stairs and turn off the light. And he's standing right there. He knows he was good with switches. No, but it's the only way I'm going to learn. And I learned. I learned when Dad's in the house, turn off light switches. I learned. You learn. And when I did, you know what it is? It's not even the money. It's not the money. You make a calculation. How much, let's say you left on all the light switches in the house for the entire month. How much would that add to your electric bill? $7.14. What we could afford it. It's not that. It's the attitude. I'm killing myself to support you guys, and you just don't care. That's what it really is. It just shows you don't care. Are we in this together or we're not? We are. Yeah, I make the money and you spend it. Yeah, we're in it together. No. Come on. You just flip off the light switch. That's what's bothering. It's not the money. It's a reflection of an attitude. How many times I've told my daughters, just cap the shampoo when you're done with the shampoo. Just cap it. It's not take that much. It's attached. The cap is attached. Just flip it down. Why? So that when it falls off the rack, you don't lose a half a bottle of shampoo. Is it really that difficult to do? Really that difficult to do? And it drives you nuts because it just shows, hey guys, don't torture me. Good, I got that off my chest. Okay, now take a look at Rashi. Vihunar, watch this. Shahaya osem maise nairus. He was doing some sort of like youthful, immature behavior. Misakein besaro. He was fixing up his hair. Mimashbesh be'enav, fixing up his eyelashes or his eyelids. Kidei she'ed nirei yafa. They should be seen. They should look nice. Very interesting. We're going to find this 3 times by Yosef. Later on, when he's captured and he's living by Potiphar, so Rashi says again, here he says misakin besaro. He's fixing up his hair. Goes to some French hairstylist, so he could pay an extra $20 for an ordinary haircut, because the guy speaks with a French accent. And he's had his hair styled, like I have my hair styled. Can you tell? I have my hair styled. Then later on, I miss it by Potiphar. Yosef sees that he's already started, and Potiphar puts him in charge of the house. Rashi says he's misalsel bisaro. He's already really starting to take care of his hair. And then the Torah says, what, your father's mourning for you? Your father doesn't know where you are. You're kidnapped. He's in a state of mourning. And you're sitting there in front of a mirror playing around with your hair. That's why he got started up with Mrs. Potiphar. I'll show you what it is to have trouble. Then there's a 3rd time, when he's taken out of prison and he comes to Paro, when he interprets the dreams. And again it says that Yosef first he shaves and he gets himself looking. What's going on here? We're talking about Yosef HaTzadik. He's called Yosef HaTzadik. What's going on? The answer is, Yosef is not a teenager who's just looking in the mirror and putting on some male cologne. Yosef knows, he senses that he's destined to be the king. Do you know that there's a halacha? It's a Mishnah in Sanhedrin. You're not allowed to watch a king getting a haircut. You're not allowed to watch a king in any compromise. A king has to look good. Not only that, the king got a haircut every day. Melech biyof, there's a pasuk that says, Melech biyofio techazen einecha. You have to see the king looking glorious. A king has to be a guy who's impressive looking. He's ruling the Jewish people. You can't walk into the king and see he's got ketchup stain on his shirt. A king has to look he's got to look sharp. Yosef knows that he's going to be the king. So what does he do? What?
If it's a non-Jewish king.
A non-Jewish king, if he's smart, he also has to look impressive. Jimmy Carter made that mistake. Jimmy Carter was president, and his first couple of months as president, he wore golf shirts to show everybody, I'm just a guy like you. And his ratings plummeted. Because we don't want the president to be a guy like you. We want the president to look impressive, because Trump is smart, he'd put on a crown, which he may very well do, by the way. I want to look up to a king, and the Torah king, a king is not allowed to. Do you know that if your father, there's halacha, when your father walks into the room, you have to stand up for your father. If your a Talmid Chacham walks into the room, you have to stand up. But they are allowed to forego their honor. Father could say, don't stand up for me. Father could say, you could sit in my seat. You're not supposed to sit in your father's chair. Father could say, you can sit in my seat. Your father could forego his honor. A Rebbe could forego, a king cannot forego his honor. Because his honor is not his own. His honor belongs to the Jewish people, not your honor. You're running the Jewish people over. It's not yours. Jimmy Carter wore golf shirts and his ratings dropped. Then he started dressing a little more dignified and presidential, and his ratings still dropped. Right? but at the end of the day, I don't want to see a president in a golf shirt. He was wearing golf. There are pictures of him. He was wearing golf shirts, carrying his own bags onto the plane to show I'm just a guy. We didn't elect you to be just a guy. We elected you to be the president. So Yosef has some sort of sense over here. We'll see from the dreams that he senses that he is going to be a ruler. Well, if you're a ruler, the ruler has to look proper. So he's already playing with his hair to make sure you look dignified. But he's a nar. What's the definition of a nar? A youth doesn't have the patience. He doesn't have what we call yishuv hadas. He doesn't have the tranquility. He's all energized. It's a hits in Yiddish. He's like, they're always jumping, they're always spontaneous. No, it wasn't the time. Yosef, you jumped the gun. So you got sold by your brothers. And then again, you're by Bisset Potiphar's house. Now he's ruling in Potiphar's house. So he sees, I guess the time has come to be the ruler. You jumped the gun again. So again, he's punished. When does he finally? You're called to Paro. Now he realizes now's the time that I'm going to become the ruler. And again, he straightens himself out. So it's not just Yosef playing with his hair, combing his hair, testing which side of the hair the part looks better on. Like teenagers do. Maybe I'll part it to the other side over here, put some goop in my hair. It's Yosef because he realized he's going to be a ruler. Now, watch the story now begins. Yosef brings a negative report. V'Yisrael ahaves Yosef mikol banav ki ben zekudim halo. Yaakov favored Yosef because he was a ben zekudim. Ben zekudim means on one level he was the son of his old age because Yosef was born later than everybody else, other than Binyamin. And number two, Ben Zekudim means that he was the one who Yaakov transmitted his Torah to. Ve'asalok sones pasim. He makes him this how does the arts go translate it? A fine woolen tunic. Now, ksones pasim is generally translated as a striped garment, a multicolored garment, and it's a royal garment of royalty. The brothers, Vayiru echav ki oso av aviyam. The brothers see that he's the one who's loved by the father. Mikol echav. Vayisneu oso. They hate him. Why they hate him? Because they figure, sure, Dad favors you because you've been snitching on us. That's a misread. It's a misread, but that's what they think. V'lo yachlu dabra l'shalom. They couldn't speak to him in peace. And Rashi points out, well, it's not nice to hate people. But at a minimum, they weren't two-faced. Didn't talk to him at all. They wouldn't talk to him. I hate you, and I'm not going to pretend that I don't. So if you hate somebody, don't be two-faced about it. At a minimum, you know exactly where I stand. So Yosef's at the breakfast table. Nobody's talking to him. Sitting at lunch table with 12 brothers, nobody's talking to him. At least he gets the message. And there's going to be a misread over here. Now here comes the kicker. Take a look at that word ksones pasim. Top of page 200. Rashi says something very strange over here. Look at the word pasim. Second line of Rashi on page 200. Right column. Pasim. Loshon clay milas. It's some sort of silk or, I don't know, some sort of fabric. Kimo karpas utcheles. It says in Megillah Esther that Mordechai was wearing some sort of outfit of karpas and cheles. Ukimo ksones apasim the tamar va'amnon. Over there also it uses it. Umedrash agoda. This is what I want to get to. Third line. Why is it called ksones pasim? Okay, the word has a meaning. But then Rashi says, al shem tsarosav. It actually is an acronym. It stands for the various problems that he went through. Shenimkar le Potifar, that's the pay. Vila socharim, we'll see the Torah talks about the merchants. Pei samach. Vila yishme'elim is a yud. Vila midyanim is a mem. Pei, samach, yud, mem, spelled out spells pasim. So this ksones pasim stands for these people that he was eventually, all the aggravation that he's going to have. Okay, what is Rashi trying to tell us here? What's Rashi trying to tell us here? Have you ever heard of Anatoly Sharansky? No, only Fortnite. Never heard of Anatoly Sharansky. He was the Jewish refusenik who was in a Soviet gulag for about 9 years. Eventually he came to Israel and he wrote a book, Fear No Evil, and he eventually became the head of the Jewish agency. 9 years he was in there, they couldn't break him. Anatoly Sharansky. Okay, he came here, became very famous, probably, I imagine, made some money, rose to a high political position. You jealous of him? I was. Wow, look at all the attention he's getting. Look at the position he's getting. Oh, that's pretty impressive. Would you spend 9 years in the Soviet gulag for it? No, I wouldn't spend a day in a Soviet gulag for it. I once had a guy here who was a Russian guy, real hardcore Russian accent. We were talking about the KGB. So I said to him, if I ever got arrested by the KGB and I put you in a car between these two big guys, I would kind of, start making jokes. I said, come on, fellas, ease up, relax, will you? Start making jokes. He said to me, no, you wouldn't. They weren't people that you were going to start joking around with. When you go into the Soviet, that means the brothers are jealous of Yosef. Why? Ooh, wow, what a nice garment. Dad gave you a nice cloak. Oh yeah? You want everything I got? You want to go through, you want to be sold to the Socharim and the Yishmaelim and get beaten and kidnapped without knowing if you're coming home and end up by Potiphar and end up in a prison in Egypt? You sure you want that? If you knew what was in there, in that Ksones Pasi, you wouldn't be jealous. That's what the Torah is teaching us. Sometimes we look at somebody else and we're all jealous of somebody else. Yeah, you want his whole situation? Jealousy is unreasonable because when we're jealous, that means I only want one chunk of what you've got. Well, you don't have one chunk. You've got the whole picture. You sure you want that? Michael Jordan once said that people want to be Michael Jordan. People think, I'd like to be Michael Jordan for a day. Michael Jordan said, but it's not for a day. I'm always Michael Jordan. That means I can never go shopping without being accosted. I can never go here I can never go anywhere without being accosted. Listen, I don't feel sorry for Michael Jordan. But what he's saying, there is a certain truth to that. It's like this two ladies are sitting on a plane. So one of these ladies, they're sitting next to each other on a plane. And this one lady's got a really nice ring with a really nice diamond. And this other lady's looking at it, she just keeps looking at this ring. She goes, that's a nice ring. She goes, yes, it is a nice ring. She goes, no, I mean, it's that's like a really nice stone. She goes, yes, it is a nice stone. She goes, I mean, it's really, she says, yes, this is the famous Plotnik diamond. She goes, oh. She goes, but it comes with a curse. She goes, really? She says, yeah, Mr. Plotnik. I mean, sometimes in life you see somebody's situation. Wow, this guy. What's going on? What else is going on in his life? You sure you want his whole package? You sure? It's an all or nothing proposition. But he's driving a really nice car. It was bought to him by his father-in-law. Ooh, nice. Yeah, you ever met his father-in-law? And the guy keeps trying to run over his father-in-law with that car. Yeah, you sure you want that car? You can't, it's unreasonable. If you knew what Yosef was going to go through, would you really trade it right now for the Exodus Pasim? You really want that? You're really so sure you want to go through that, you'll survive it? That's what the Torah is teaching you. That's how unreasonable it is. That's how unreasonable jealousy is. Yosef has a mistake. Second line from the top. Vayachalom Yosef chalom. Yosef has a dream. Vayaged le'echav. He tells his brothers. Vayosifu otzno, so they add on to their hatred. It doesn't even say what the dream was. So why are they hating him more? Why are they hating him more? Who do you share your dreams with? Who do you tell your dreams to? Friends. And especially if it's like a really dreamy dream. It's got to be a real good friend. And Yosef they hate him. They're not talking to him. Yosef says, hi guys, you want to hear my dream? Well, you don't get the fact that we don't like you? What makes you think we want to hear your dream? Why would I want to hear your dream?
They're a part of it.
But they don't know that. The Torah just says they hate him just for wanting to share the dream. He hasn't even said what the dream is. They hate him for wanting to share a dream. You have no social graces. What are you going to do? You walk to some there's some a motorcycle gang and blocking your way on the sidewalk, and you walk over. Hi guys, you want to hear my dream? What happened to you? So they hate him for that. Vayomer aleim shimuna chalom hazeh. He says, hey, listen to this dream. And I'll listen to the dream. We're binding sheaves. My sheaf stood up straight. And your sheaves all bowed down to my sheaves. Silence in the room. Okay? And it's like, oh. How come nobody's enjoying this dream? Are you going to rule over us? You're going to subjugate us? Vayosifu od snos al chomosa v'achalam drav. So they had even more hatred, 3 levels of hatred. Then Yosef says to them, Vayachalom od chalom acher. There's another dream. But what, he doesn't get it yet? You still don't get it? I had another dream. The sun, the moon, and 11 stars are bowing down to me. There's a significant change in this dream over the previous dream. First, I remember as a little kid wondering, how does the moon bow? I mean, the moon it's a sphere. I tried to, as a little kid, trying to picture, how does the sun bow exactly? And how does the moon bow? How do stars bow? Still haven't got an answer to that. But at the end of the day, what's the difference between this dream and the previous dream? They're the same ish. Yeah, but what's the ish? There's an ish over here.
The numbers of stars and little numbers of
You have a first of all, the first dream was only the 11 sheaves. Here you have 11 stars, but you also got to represent that you got 2 added things that weren't there. I'm not talking about the difference between stars and sheaves. You have 2 added factors, which are the sun and the moon, which we'll find out tomorrow. Okay, I was going to talk about how to make a lot of money quickly. We don't have time today. We'll have to do it tomorrow.